Thank you for choosing Wisdom of the Dharma. If you found this video insightful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support helps us keep sharing powerful, life-changing wisdom with the world. And don't forget to drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's grow and learn together. Part 1. The Sacred Container You Forgot. There's an object in your kitchen right now, quiet, humble, and easily overlooked, that may be influencing your entire financial flow. It's not your wallet or your safe. It's your rice jar. Yes, the very container that holds your rice. In Buddhist and Eastern traditions, rice is not just a staple, it is a living symbol of life, gratitude, and quiet prosperity. To have rice is to have enough. And the vessel that stores it? That's not just a jar. It's a reflection of how you hold abundance. In Feng Shui, every object carries energy. But containers like the rice jar do more than just hold, they channel. They gather. They mirror your intentions, your mindset, your karma. If your rice jar is neglected, empty, shoved in a corner, cracked, or stored in chaos, it sends a message far deeper than you realize. Not to your guests, but to your own subconscious. We're running out. We're not enough. We must brace for scarcity. That thought becomes energy. And that energy shapes behavior, often without your awareness. Now consider this. What if your rice jar were treated like a vault? Not just for food, but for wealth energy. Would you still place it under the sink, next to trash bins, or near heat and moisture? Years ago, I met a successful woman who earned well but always felt financially unstable. Her rice jar? It sat empty on top of a humming refrigerator, surrounded by unopened mail. She didn't think it mattered, until she began to understand how subtle energy, like karma, accumulates. Small neglects, quiet signals, missed intentions. So before we talk about ideal placement, materials, or Feng Shui directions, start with this. Your rice jar is not just a kitchen item. It's a mirror. And what it reflects, scarcity or security, worry or welcome, is up to you. Part 2. Rice, more than food, it's Dharma in a jar. Rice isn't just a carbohydrate. It's a teaching. In the Buddhist worldview, food is never merely consumed. It's received, with gratitude. Every grain of rice holds the effort of countless beings, the farmer, the rain, the soil, the sunlight, the transporter. To waste even a handful is to disregard the web of interdependence that sustains life. That's why in monasteries, before the first bite, monks pause and recite, "This food is the labor of many. May I receive it with mindfulness and gratitude." And yet, in so many modern homes, rice has become background noise, just another pantry item, scooped without thought, stored without care. But Feng Shui and Dharma both ask us to look deeper. Rice, in its energy, belongs to the wood element, life-giving, growth-oriented, patient. It symbolizes quiet prosperity, wealth that accumulates not through luck or force, but through steady nourishment and right action. That's why across Asia, offering rice to the altar is one of the most enduring practices. It represents the seed of karma ripening into future fortune. And what about the jar that holds it? In Buddhist metaphor, the vessel always matters. The Buddha taught that the same water takes on the flavor of the container it's in. So, too, does energy. A peaceful home doesn't arise by accident, it's held by intention, just like a rice jar holds the seed of abundance. An empty jar, even if temporary, can create a subtle echo of lack. Over time, it becomes a silent mantra in the subconscious. I don't have enough. That belief seeps into your choices, how you spend, how you save, even how you give. Scarcity isn't always about numbers. Often, it's a pattern formed by invisible cues we live with daily. So here's a powerful shift. Instead of seeing rice as just food, treat it as Dharma in a jar. Each time you scoop it, say, "Thank you." Each time you refill it, remember, you are not just storing calories. You're affirming the presence of support, of stability, of spiritual wealth. And when you begin to treat even a jar of rice with that kind of reverence, you'll notice, it's not the rice that changes. It's you. Part 3, Container Energy. What is your rice jar really saying? If rice is the seed of abundance, then the jar is the soil. And just like a seed cannot thrive in barren, toxic ground, your rice cannot radiate wealth energy if the container itself is energetically lifeless. Many people choose rice jars based on convenience, plastic tubs, leftover containers, whatever fits the shelf. But in Feng Shui, the material of the container is not neutral. It speaks. It vibrates. It either supports growth, or blocks it. Let's start with plastic. It may be cheap and practical, but it belongs to no natural element. In the 5-element system, that's a red flag. Plastic is dead energy, synthetic, sterile, disconnected from the earth. When you store rice in plastic, you create a kind of energetic void. It doesn't hold nourishment, it suspends it. There's no grounding, no transmission. Just storage. Now compare that to ceramic. Ceramic, clay, and porcelain belong to the earth element. They're warm, stable, and grounding, everything rice needs to retain its life-giving force. In traditional Asian homes, large clay jars weren't just for show. They were considered energetic vaults, containers that breathed slowly with the house, absorbing excess moisture, maintaining balance, and symbolizing steady accumulation. Even more importantly, these materials age well. Over time, a ceramic jar develops subtle energy layers from the hands that touch it and the blessings spoken near it. It becomes part of your family's energetic story. Wood is another beautiful choice, especially bamboo or solid hardwood. It connects rice back to the forest, to nature's cycle of nourishment. But only when it's real wood. Avoid engineered wood, MDF, or chemically treated finishes. These disrupt the energy field with synthetic toxins and can subtly agitate the energy of your kitchen. And then there's metal, shiny, modern, cold. While elegant to the eye, metal clashes with rice's wood energy. In the elemental cycle, metal cuts wood. That means it can suppress growth, freeze movement, and interrupt the gentle flow of abundance. The lesson here is simple. Your rice jar is not just a kitchen object. It's an energetic soil for your family's financial roots. Choose a container that reflects care, grounding, and harmony, and your rice won't just nourish your body. It will nourish your wealth. Part 4, The Psychology of Emptyness. Have you ever opened your rice jar and seen the bottom? It's just a moment, a glance, a brief realization that it's almost empty. Most people shrug it off. I'll refill it tomorrow. But in that split second, something happens, quietly, beneath awareness. A flicker of tension. A whisper of lack. That whisper, if repeated often enough, becomes a belief. I'm running out. In Buddhist psychology, this is called Tang Tuk, the store consciousness. It's where seeds of perception are planted and slowly blossom into habits, tendencies, and fears. When your environment repeatedly shows you emptiness, an empty rice jar, an empty wallet, an empty calendar, those impressions take root. Not because you want them to, but because the mind is always learning from its surroundings. That's why in Feng Shui, a rice jar should never be empty. Even 2/3 full is a message of sufficiency. Not excess, just enough. That enough is where abundance begins. Because abundance is not about having everything, it's about feeling supported by what you already have. I once worked with a young mother, single, juggling 2 jobs, always anxious about bills. She told me, "I can't think about energy. I just want to survive." When I asked about her rice jar, she blinked. "I don't know. I think it's in the back of the cabinet." It was hidden, cracked, nearly empty. I asked her to do one thing, just one. Keep it clean. Keep it visible. And never let it drop below halfway. She thought it was silly, but agreed. 3 months later, her tone changed. "I don't know what happened," she said. "I got a better job. My son sleeps better. I feel calmer." Was it magic? No. It was alignment. Her outer space began reflecting inner stability, and her inner mind responded in kind. Because an empty jar doesn't just hold no rice. It holds no faith. We are shaped by what surrounds us. And the rice jar is not only about food, it is a symbol of your relationship with provision, with peace, with the quiet knowledge that you are held. So the next time you open your rice jar and see the bottom, don't just see rice. See the message you're feeding your future. Part 5, Placement, where wealth lives or dies. You can have the most beautiful rice jar, full of the finest grains, made from sacred earth. But if you place it in the wrong spot, all that potential energy goes to waste. In Feng Shui, placement is everything. A sacred object in the wrong place is like a seed planted in stone. It doesn't matter how good the seed is, it won't grow. That's why where you put your rice jar is just as important as what it's made of. Let's explore the 4 most energetically supportive places to keep this sacred vessel. 1. Southeast corner, the gentle stream of prosperity. In Feng Shui's 8-mansion system, the southeast belongs to the Tun trigram, associated with wind, gentle growth, and slow but steady accumulation. Think of it as a breeze sweeping across a rice field. When you place your rice jar here, you're inviting that same nourishing flow into your home. I once advised a small business owner struggling with cash flow. She wasn't reckless, just stuck. After relocating her rice jar to the southeast corner of her kitchen, things shifted. New clients came. Old debts were paid. There was no big miracle, just consistent forward movement. That's the southeast. Quiet progress. Wealth that builds like layers of rice in a full jar. 2. True north, the flow of career and stability. The north sector aligns with the calm trigram, water element, career energy, income streams. While southeast nourishes growth, north sustains it through professional stability and purpose. This position is especially helpful for teachers, civil servants, healthcare workers, and anyone whose financial well-being depends on steady work. If your rice jar lives in the northern part of your kitchen or pantry, you're anchoring not just money, but meaningful, reliable income. Just remember, water energy can get polluted. Keep this area dry, away from bathrooms, drains, or clutter. Think of it as tending a clean, flowing stream. 3. Private, grounded corners, energy needs shelter. Your rice jar is a vault. And vaults need walls. Feng Shui teaches us that wealth gathers in quiet, undisturbed spaces. So avoid placing your rice jar in walkways, next to fans, or in high traffic zones. These are places of scattered qi, where energy can't settle. Instead, find a still corner, preferably backed by a solid wall. Let it feel protected. Private. Grounded. Think of it like placing your treasure chest inside a peaceful cave. Not only will energy gather there, but so will your own sense of security. 4. Pantry or food storage, silent abundance. If your home has a pantry or a designated food storage zone, it's one of the best places to keep your rice jar. Why? Because this space already symbolizes reserve, preparedness, and quiet abundance. It doesn't draw attention, but it holds everything that matters. In one family I worked with, the parents always felt anxious about what-if scenarios, emergencies, job loss, rising costs. After placing their rice jar in the pantry, on a clean wooden shelf, with intention, they reported something surprising. They still had the same income. But they felt safe for the first time in years. The rice didn't change. The placement did. And that shifted their mindset, which changed everything. The house listens. You don't need to remodel your kitchen or build a shrine. Just move a jar with care. Because placement is more than location. It's a declaration. I value nourishment. I respect flow. I welcome wealth. Even the smallest repositioning, done with presence, can shift your life's current. So ask yourself, is my rice jar gathering energy? Or losing it? Sometimes, moving just one item can move your entire life. Part 6, The Silent Saboteurs, where not to place your rice jar. Some placements support your wealth. Others, quietly, invisibly, drain it. These are the energetic danger zones in your home. Places where even a sacred object like a rice jar can become a magnet for poverty, instability, or loss, if placed without awareness. Let's uncover the 5 most common mistakes people make when placing their rice jar. 1. Too close to the stove, where fire burns fortune. The stove represents fire, passionate, consuming, and intense. Rice, in contrast, carries wood and earth energy, gentle, nurturing, stable. When these two elements sit side by side, imbalance is inevitable. Fire doesn't support wood, it burns it. I once visited a family who kept their rice jar right next to the stove for convenience. Over time, their finances became erratic. Bills piled up. Arguments increased. And the kitchen, instead of feeling warm, felt tense. Fire near rice doesn't just spoil the grain faster. It cooks away the subtle energy of provision. Move your jar away, even a few feet, toward a calmer space. 2. Near bathrooms or toilets, where energy flows out. Bathrooms symbolize elimination, decay, and water in motion, always flowing outward. Rice needs stability to anchor wealth. To place it near a toilet is to invite that energy to flush away, slowly, day by day. One man told me his rice jar was near the guest bathroom, because that was the only shelf left. Months later, he began facing unexplained expenses, repairs, missed promotions, unexpected debts. When we moved the jar to a grounded corner, things gradually shifted. It's not superstition. It's energetic logic. Wealth doesn't stay where energy constantly drains. 3. Under the sink, where leaks create loss. It seems harmless, a hidden, out-of-the-way spot. But under the sink is a zone of dampness, shadows, and downward flow. Water overcomes earth and the 5 elements, meaning it dissolves stability. A rice jar placed here absorbs more than moisture. It absorbs insecurity. Worse, if there are leaky pipes or odors, the symbolism becomes stronger. Your wealth literally dripping away. I always tell clients, under the sink is for cleaners, not karma. 4. On top of the refrigerator, where energy is unstable. The top of the fridge may feel convenient, but it's a chaotic place. Heat, vibration, and constant motion live here. Even more subtly, placing a rice jar high above your eye level carries a psychological message. My nourishment is out of reach. It becomes something you have to reach for instead of something that supports you from below. A young couple told me they both struggled with long-term financial planning. Always saving. But never enough. Their rice jar? Balanced on top of a noisy fridge. We moved it to a grounded corner shelf. Weeks later, they reported feeling less scattered, and more in control. Sometimes the fridge hums louder than your inner voice. Don't put your fortune there. 5. On high shelves near the ceiling, where wealth floats away. Rice represents earth, and earth energy needs the ground. When you place your rice jar near the ceiling, especially without a backing wall, you symbolically suspend your wealth. It has no roots. It hovers, unsettled. Think of it this way, would you build a house on stilts? In the wind? No. And you shouldn't float your wealth either. A woman once told me she constantly feared it'll all fall apart. Her rice jar sat on a tall shelf, nearly out of reach. That was her home's subconscious message. Wealth isn't safe. After bringing it down to a grounded, supported space, her anxiety began to dissolve. Placement is a prayer. Where you place your rice jar is not just a storage decision. It's a declaration of your relationship with wealth, trust, and self-worth. Convenience is not worth the cost of quiet misalignment. So take a moment today. Walk into your kitchen. Find your rice jar. Ask, is this a place where energy gathers, or scatters? And remember, sometimes, what's silently blocking your prosperity is right in front of you. Part 7. The energetic field around the jar. In Feng Shui, placement is not only about where you put something, it's also about what surrounds it. Think of your rice jar like a candle. Even if the flame is strong, a gust of wind, or clutter too close, can still blow it out. The energy around your jar matters just as much as the jar itself. Let's start with a common mistake, placing broken or chipped items nearby. That old bowl with a hairline crack. The plate with a missing edge. You may think it's harmless. But energetically, these objects carry the frequency of fragmentation. And when placed next to a symbol of fullness and nourishment, like the rice jar, they introduce a subtle energy of incompleteness. Now imagine stacking heavy objects, jugs of water, bulky bins, on top of or beside your rice jar. What message does that send? Wealth must be compressed. Abundance is a burden. One family I worked with kept a stack of unopened mail and 2 large detergent bottles beside their rice jar. Every time the mother scooped rice, she had to bend awkwardly, bumping into the clutter. Without realizing it, she began associating nourishment with stress. And their finances reflected it, constant delays, unmet goals. Energy speaks quietly, but it's always speaking. Then there are sharp objects, scissors, knives, broken glass. These carry cutting energy, which in Feng Shui represents separation, division, and sudden loss. Keeping them near your rice jar can create energetic friction, leading to financial instability or fractured relationships. And don't forget stagnant items, expired bills, dusty calendars, old notebooks. These radiate the past, anchoring you in memories or limitations instead of growth. Instead, treat the space around your rice jar as sacred ground. Keep it open, lightly decorated, peaceful. Place a small plant, a clean wooden spoon, or a meaningful quote nearby. These items support the intention of abundance, not just for your pantry, but for your spirit. Because the energy that surrounds your wealth protects it or weakens it. And every time you pass by your rice jar, let its quiet presence remind you. Peaceful surroundings attract peaceful prosperity. Part 8. The Ritual of Respect. What if the simple act of touching your rice jar became a sacred ritual? In many Buddhist temples, the smallest gestures, folding a robe, sweeping the floor, offering a bowl of rice, are done with complete mindfulness. Not because the task is holy in itself, but because attention makes it holy. And so it is with your rice jar. In your home, the rice jar is more than a container. It is a symbol of care, gratitude, and continuity. It holds not just food, but the karma of nourishment. When approached with respect, it becomes a subtle altar. A quiet declaration that says, I honor the source of life. So why not treat it that way? Here is a simple weekly ritual you can begin. No incense, no chanting required, just presence. Step 1. Clear the space. Choose a time each week, Sunday morning, perhaps, when the house is quiet. Remove clutter near your rice jar. Wipe the area gently. Light a candle nearby, if you wish, or open a window to let fresh air in. Step 2. Check the rice level. If the jar is below 2/3 full, refill it. Do this slowly. With each scoop, breathe. With each pour, whisper a word of blessing. May this home be full. May we always have enough. May all who eat from this be healthy and at peace. Step 3. Touch with reverence. Place your hand on the lid. Not to open it, but to acknowledge it. Feel its weight. Notice its material. The cool of ceramic, the warmth of wood. Say silently, thank you for what you hold. Step 4. Reflect in stillness. Stand for just a moment. Eyes closed if you like. Breathe. Imagine your home as a vessel. Imagine the rice inside as your future, quiet, patient, full of potential. This is not superstition. This is sacred psychology. When you treat an object with care, you train the mind to care. When you act from presence, you build presence. And when your rice jar becomes a weekly ritual, it no longer just holds rice. It holds your awareness. Because in the Dharma, every action, no matter how small, is a doorway to mindfulness. And when you give respect to what feeds you, life responds with blessings you didn't even know you were ready to receive. Part 9, Final Reflection. What you hold, holds you. In the end, this wasn't really a lesson about rice. It was a lesson about how we hold what matters. Your rice jar is just one object in your home. One vessel. One silent witness to your daily life. And yet, the way you treat it, the placement, the material, the care, the awareness, mirrors something deeper. It reflects how you hold your resources. Your stability. Your sense of enough. In Buddhist teachings, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. What looks like just a jar is never just a jar. It's your consciousness, expressed in ceramic, wood, or clay. It's your intentions, made visible. It's your karmic relationship with nourishment and trust. So if your rice jar is neglected, maybe it's not about the jar. Maybe it's a reflection of parts of your life that feel neglected, scattered, or unstable. But if your rice jar is full, peaceful, and cared for, then chances are, your inner world reflects that same energy, grounded, steady, grateful. This is the Dharma of space. It teaches without words. It reveals what we truly value. It calls us to return, to simplicity, to attention, to quiet power. And perhaps the most beautiful truth is this. You don't need to be wealthy to build wealth energy. You don't need a perfect kitchen, a fancy container, or a big house. You only need to bring mindfulness to what you already have. That's where transformation begins. Because in the end, what you hold in your hands, if held with reverence, will hold you in return. Let this be your reminder. Even something as ordinary as a rice jar can become extraordinary when seen with awakened eyes. Even a corner of your kitchen can become a sacred vault of abundance. And even the smallest act of care can open the door to the greatest fortune. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If today's message brought you peace or insight, I invite you to like the video, leave a comment with your affirmation or reflection, and subscribe to Wisdom of the Dharma for more mindful teachings. May your home be full. May your heart be full. May your life overflow with silent, steady blessings.